started like any other peaceful autumn weekend on the South Carolina coast. The sun rose gently over Myrtle Beach, painting the ocean gold. Families were out enjoying the boardwalk, the smell of salt water in the air, and laughter echoing across the shoreline. But that calm wouldn't last. By afternoon, the air began to feel heavy. The wind shifted, clouds rolled in, and the horizon turned an ominous gray. What had begun as a quiet Saturday was about to spiral into chaos. Off the Atlantic coast, a fast-moving tropical storm had been brewing, and by evening it was ready to strike. Winds roared past 60 miles per hour. Sheets of rain hammered the streets, and seawater began creeping inland, swallowing everything in its path. Cars floated along Ocean Boulevard. Power lines snapped and sparked. Families rushed to higher ground as floodwaters rose faster than anyone expected. By nightfall, Myrtle Beach looked nothing like the paradise it had been that morning. This wasn't just another storm. This was the flood that would leave a mark on Myrtle Beach forever. By late afternoon, the storm had unleashed its full fury. More than 7 inches of rain fell in less than a day. Relentless winds from the northeast shoved the Atlantic Strait into the city. Seawater surged over the dunes, flooded parking lots, and invaded neighborhoods that had never seen water before. Ocean Boulevard was buried under 3 feet of swirling floodwater. Kings Highway, one of the busiest roads in town, had become a river. Streetlights flickered, transformers exploded in blue flashes, and debris drifted past half-sunken cars. It was like the ocean broke through, said one resident watching helplessly from his porch as waves crashed against his fence. Sirens wailed through the howling wind as first responders battled to reach trapped families. The flooding came so fast, even homes on higher ground couldn't escape it. By evening, the tourist-filled beachfront was gone, replaced by a wasteland of dark water, broken signs, and howling gusts. As night fell, Myrtle Beach turned into a city under siege. The wind ripped shingles from roofs, tore palm trees from the ground, and sent debris flying through the air. Power outages spread block by block until the entire coastline was swallowed in darkness. Emergency lines were jammed with desperate calls, families trapped in rising water, seniors stranded in flooded homes, and cars being swept away by invisible currents. Firefighters and police waded through waist-deep water, navigating streets that had become rivers. With high-clearance trucks and inflatable boats, they carried out dozens of daring rescues, saving whoever they could before the tide claimed more. That night, Myrtle Beach wasn't a vacation town. It was a battlefield between nature and survival, a reminder of how quickly paradise can turn into peril when the sea decides to take back what's hers. A rescue team pulled up to a nursing home just as water started flooding through the front doors. One by one, they carried the elderly residents to safety. Across town, at a nearby apartment complex, people huddled together in stairwells while the water climbed higher with every passing minute. Angela Rivera, a 24-year-old student, later said, "We could hear the wind howling outside like it wanted to tear the whole building apart." That night, community centers, schools, and churches turned into emergency shelters. Volunteers worked tirelessly, handing out blankets, dry clothes, and hot meals to families who had lost everything. It was a night filled with chaos and fear, but also with courage, kindness, and an unshakable will to survive. Meteorologists later called it a hydrometeorological collision, a rare mix of weather forces that collided to create the perfect storm. It all started with a low-pressure system over the Atlantic. The ocean's surface was unusually warm, about 3 degrees hotter than normal for October. As that system moved toward the Carolinas, it rapidly strengthened, drawing in thick, moisture-packed air and transforming into a tight, powerful tropical storm. At the same time, strong northeasterly winds pushed seawater inland, right as an astronomical high tide hit. Together, they formed a massive wall of water that slammed into the coast. Myrtle Beach's old drainage system didn't stand a chance. Dr. Rachel Zuzia, a coastal climate expert from the University of South Carolina, explained it best. The real danger wasn't just how much rain fell. It was how quickly it happened, where it happened, and how unprepared the infrastructure was to handle that kind of flooding. And scientists agree, climate change made it worse. Sea levels along the coast have risen almost 8 inches since the 1960s, making storm surges even more destructive. This flood wasn't just a freak event. It's part of a growing pattern, a warning sign of how vulnerable America's southern coastlines have become. When the floodwaters started rising in Myrtle Beach, no one could have imagined how intense the next few days would be. What followed became one of the largest rescue operations the city had ever seen. The fire department, the Coast Guard, and the South Carolina National Guard all joined forces, working side by side through the night. Rescue boats, high water trucks, and helicopters pushed through flooded streets, searching for anyone trapped by the storm. On Ocean Boulevard, a Coast Guard crew spotted a family stranded on top of their SUV. Within minutes, they were lifted to safety. In another part of town, firefighters waded through chest-deep water to reach a nursing home where the power had gone out and residents were in danger. Over 1,200 emergency personnel were deployed across the region, and thanks to their efforts, hundreds of people made it out alive. But even as the rain poured and the streets filled with water, the community refused to back down. Local restaurants opened their kitchens, cooking hot meals for anyone who had lost their home. Churches became makeshift shelters filled with cots, blankets, and volunteers comforting the displaced. College students formed groups to hand out bottled water and sandbags. And neighbors, many meeting for the first time, checked in on one another through the chaos. Governor Henry McMaster declared a state of emergency, clearing the way for federal help. FEMA teams arrived within hours, working non-stop to assess damage and coordinate relief efforts. And through it all, one thing stood out. The people of Myrtle Beach didn't give up. Their courage, their unity, and their compassion became the strength that kept hope alive through the darkest hours. When the storm finally passed, Myrtle Beach looked nothing like it once did. The familiar boardwalks, bright lights, and beach umbrellas were replaced by mud, debris, and shattered glass. City officials estimated the damage in the hundreds of millions. More than 3,500 homes and businesses were flooded, and countless vehicles were swept away or destroyed. Hotels that once welcomed tourists now housed families with nowhere else to go. The flood may have changed the face of Myrtle Beach, but it didn't break its spirit. Because when everything else was washed away, what remained was humanity, standing strong, together. The famous Ocean Boulevard, usually buzzing with tourists, live music, and beach laughter, now stands quiet. The once busy boardwalk is covered in salt, sand, and wreckage. Myrtle Beach's tourism industry, the heart of its economy, took a massive hit. Fall festivals, big conferences, even beachfront weddings, all canceled one after another. Local shop owners who were just getting back on their feet after past storms are facing heartbreak again. Mark Delgado, who runs a small beachfront cafe, said it best. You can rebuild walls, but rebuilding hope, that takes a lot longer. Infrastructure damage has added to the growing bill. Power lines, bridges, and coastal highways all took a beating. The city's old stormwater system couldn't handle the surge. Now it'll need millions in repairs. Environmental experts are warning this isn't just another storm. They're calling it a wake-up call, a sign that coastal cities need to adapt before the next big one hits. Myrtle Beach will recover. But this time, the cost isn't just in dollars. It's in resilience, community, and hope. And as you can see, the water is still creeping closer every day. As cleanup carried on under the Carolina sun, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't just another storm. It was a wake-up call. Myrtle Beach, like so many coastal cities across America, had been living on borrowed time. Rising sea levels, stronger hurricanes, and non-stop development had created a perfect storm of vulnerability. In the weeks that followed, city planners, engineers, and climate experts came together, asking one crucial question: how do we keep this from happening again? The answer? Resilience can't be optional anymore. Blueprints were drawn to reinforce seawalls, raise new homes higher off the ground, and expand flood zone maps. The city began working on climate-smart zoning laws to prevent future construction in risky flood areas. Schools started teaching kids about disaster awareness. Neighborhood groups hosted emergency prep workshops. Even homeowners took action, adding backup generators, water storage tanks, and flood barriers to protect their families. But something even more powerful began to shift. People started realizing that the ocean wasn't just scenery. It was a living force that deserved respect. This isn't about rebuilding what we lost, said coastal geologist Dr. Lena Patel. It's about rethinking how we live with nature, not against it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, golden light glimmered off puddles that once covered entire streets. The ocean waves rolled in softer now, like they, too, were catching their breath after the chaos. Myrtle Beach was scarred, but it wasn't broken. Families swept away the mud from their porches. Neighbors helped neighbors. Kids played in the sand again under clear blue skies. But beneath that calm was a promise that this time, things will change. Resilience isn't just a word anymore. It's a lifestyle. From stronger infrastructure to smarter coastal planning, from personal preparedness to community awareness, the people of South Carolina are rebuilding not just their homes, but their hope. Because the next storm will come. The question isn't if, it's when. And when it does, may we stand ready. Stronger, wiser, united. This isn't just a story of survival, it's a call to action. If you believe in resilience, awareness, and truth, hit that like, share, and subscribe button to support stories that matter. Together, we rise above the tide.